Miles between hearts. The first time Daniel saw her, she was sitting on the hood of a broken vending machine outside a roadside diner in Oklahoma. It was past midnight, the kind of hour when only truckers, insomniacs, and people running from something are still awake. She wore a red jacket that had seen better years and boots scuffed by too many sidewalks. Her makeup was carefully done, but her eyes looked tired. Not sleepy tired, but soul tired. Like someone who had learned too early that life makes promises it never keeps. Daniel noticed her because she wasn't looking at anyone. Most of the women who worked truck stops scanned the parking lot constantly, reading men like price tags. But she just stared at the dark highway, hugging herself against the cold. He would later learn her name was Lena, but that night she was just a stranger under neon light. Daniel had been a long-haul truck driver for almost 10 years, 36 years old, divorced, no kids. His life was measured in miles, rest stops, and the steady hum of tires on asphalt. He liked the road because it didn't ask questions. The road didn't care why his marriage fell apart. It didn't care that he still checked his phone sometimes, half hoping for a message that would never come. It didn't care that silence in the cab sometimes felt heavier than cargo. He stepped out of his truck to stretch his legs, rolling his shoulders, and that's when she looked at him. Not flirtatious, not inviting, just curious, like he was something different. "You got a light?" she asked. Her voice was softer than he expected. He handed her his lighter. Their fingers brushed, and she gave him a quick, polite smile. Not the kind meant to sell anything, just human. "Thanks," she said. "You waiting on someone?" he asked before he could stop himself. She tilted her head. "Aren't we all?" He huffed a quiet laugh. "Fair enough. Most conversations at truck stops are short and transactional." But neither of them moved away. "Cold night," he said. "Colder than it should be," she replied. He noticed then that she wasn't shivering from temperature alone. They talked for 10 minutes, about nothing important, coffee, bad road food, how flat Oklahoma felt like driving across the surface of the moon. She didn't tell him what she did. He didn't ask. But when a shiny pickup slowed near the curb and the driver whistled at her, Daniel saw her expression change. The softness vanished. A mask slid into place. She gave Daniel the lighter back. "Drive safe," she said. "You too," he replied, and instantly felt stupid, because clearly she wasn't going anywhere. She walked toward the pickup, got in, the truck drove off. Daniel stood there longer than he needed to, staring at the empty spot she'd left behind. He didn't like the feeling in his chest, not jealousy, not pity, something closer to recognition. He saw her again 3 weeks later. Different state, same highway chain, this time in New Mexico. He almost didn't believe it was her. She was inside the diner, stirring coffee she clearly wasn't drinking. When she looked up and recognized him, her eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Lighter guy," she said. "Moon landscape girl," he replied. She laughed, a real one this time. He sat across from her, bought her a slice of pie she barely touched. "You follow me around to return the favor?" she teased. "Guess the road's smaller than we think," he said. She studied him for a moment. "Most guys don't sit and talk. Most guys probably know the rules better. And you don't?" He shrugged. "I know loneliness when I see it." Her expression flickered, not offended, just seen. "My name's Lena," she said quietly. "Daniel." They shook hands like business partners making a strange deal. Over the next months, they kept running into each other. Texas, Arizona, Missouri. The highway system became a web that kept crossing their paths. Every time they talked longer. He learned she was 27, grew up in foster care, left home at 16 with a boyfriend who promised California and gave her nothing but debt and bruises. She'd been surviving ever since. She said it plainly. No drama, no tears. Like someone describing the weather. He told her about his divorce, how he and his ex had slowly become strangers sharing a mortgage. No betrayal, no explosion, just quiet drifting until there was nothing left to hold. Funny, Lena said once, how people can leave you without actually going anywhere. Yeah, he agreed, and how others leave, and somehow they're still with you. She looked at him differently after that. He never bought her, never crossed that line. Not because he judged her, but because what grew between them didn't feel like something you could put a price on. Sometimes they just sat in his truck cab drinking gas station coffee, watching other trucks roll in like tired metal animals. She'd take off her jacket, rub her arms, and sigh like she could finally breathe. With you, she said once, I don't have to be anyone. That's because you already are someone, he replied. She looked out the windshield so he wouldn't see her eyes shine. One night in Nevada, she climbed into his truck shaking. A man had gotten rough. She'd gotten away, but barely. Daniel's hands trembled on the steering wheel. You can stay here tonight, he said. No expectations. Just sleep. She studied him carefully, like she was waiting for the catch. There isn't one, he said softly. She curled up on the small sleeper bed behind the seats. For the first time in years, she slept without one eye open. Daniel didn't sleep much. He just listened to her breathing and felt something settle inside him, a quiet promise he hadn't meant to make. After that, things changed. She started waiting for him when she knew his routes. He started planning his routes around where she might be. They still never labeled it, but everyone at the truck stops began to notice. That your girl? Another driver asked once. Daniel looked over at Lena, laughing at something the waitress said. Yeah, he answered before thinking, and for once the word didn't scare him. Lena began to talk about leaving. Not dramatically, not like a movie speech, just little comments. I wonder what it'd be like to have a mailbox. I've never had a kitchen that was mine. I'd like to sleep somewhere that doesn't have wheels or strangers. Daniel listened, heart pounding every time. You could, he said one night. You know that, right? She gave him a sad smile. People like me don't get clean exits. People like you are just people, Lena. She blinked hard. You make it sound easy. It won't be, he said, but hard doesn't mean impossible. The turning point came in Colorado. Snow was falling in heavy, silent sheets. Lena showed up at his truck stop with a small duffel bag. No makeup, no red jacket, just her. I'm done, she said. Daniel searched her face. Done. For the night? Done with all of it. Fear and hope warred in her eyes. I don't know how to be anything else, she admitted. He opened his passenger door. Then we figure it out, he said, together. The first months were messy. She had nightmares, trust issues, guilt that clung like smoke. She kept expecting him to change his mind. He didn't. She got a job at a small roadside cafe in Kansas, burned pancakes the first week, cried in the freezer once, laughed more than she had in years. Daniel took shorter routes, came home every few days to a tiny rented house with squeaky floors and secondhand furniture. It was the most beautiful place either of them had ever lived. One evening, Lena stood in their kitchen, sunlight turning her hair gold. I keep waiting, she said, for someone to tell me I don't deserve this. Daniel crossed the room and took her hands. You don't earn love by suffering first, he said. You deserve it because you're you. She cried then, not the quiet tears of survival, but the deep, shaking kind that washes old pain out. He held her until the storm passed. Years later, when people asked how they met, they'd look at each other and smile. At a truck stop, Daniel would say. Under terrible lighting, Lena would add. They never told the whole story. Some chapters are too heavy for small talk, but every time Daniel drove a long stretch of highway at night, he no longer felt alone in the cab, because somewhere ahead was home, and for the first time in both their lives, home wasn't a place they were passing through. It was a person who chose to stay. End.